Hey guys, my editor and I thought that we would share a brief excerpt from my novel Paper Puzzle. The excerpt will come from chapter 6 entitled The Lawyer and the Audio Tape Diary. Peter James Burris was enamored with the red-haired girl from the Bay. He would do anything she said. She was an astrology buff. The stars were so aligned, the girlfriend said, that Burris must leave the San Francisco Bay Area and travel back to his home state of Florida, where he must meet with a mustached lawyer. The stars revealed that Burris should record an account of certain matters on his mind and give them to the mustached lawyer for safekeeping. Only after Burris had accomplished this task would the heavens be so appeased that the two of them could get married. In the past, Burris could have had any woman that he wanted, and he did not have to marry them in order to enjoy their delight. This woman was different. She was a redhead, smoked pot, and stood like a stately maiden waiting to be deflowered, although she perhaps had been deflowered many constellations ago. Burris did as the stars told him, or at least as the girlfriend told him the stars said it was necessary for him to do in order to command the company of his delight. The stars told her that Burris had to clear his past if he had any wish to live a happy life with her. Love, as they say, make people do silly things. It was no less with the shaggy redhead from Florida via Georgia. Burris set out hitchhiking across the country with a backpack loaded with a half-pound of weed and a cassette tape recorder. He concealed the fact that he had the weed in his backpack from the strangers who offered him a ride or lodging. He smoked some of the weed along the way and was always thoughtful enough to leave a joint or two with those who would stop to give him a ride on his journey from the West Coast or offer lodging and sex for a couple of days. After 2 weeks of a circuitous route, Burris landed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He strolled into the city with his backpack across his shoulders, an ounce of weed, and a tape recorder that had been rolling throughout his return venture to the south. The stars were not so precise that they screamed out the name of Robin Yeti. Once reaching Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Burris had to determine which mustache lawyer he should give his audio tape diary to for safekeeping. He walked into the first courthouse he came upon, the Circuit Court of Broward County. He surveyed the lawyers, paying careful attention to the ones with facial hair. These places, courthouses that is, gave him the creeps. He had spent far too much time sitting in the belly of one of the beasts, waiting to hear a black robe drone on and on and on in a jargon of the absurd that would lead him to yet another period of confinement in the state's most expensive, although not its most luxurious resort. Burris took a seat on a church-like pew alongside the men and women who came to hear their fate or the disposition of matters pertaining to their loved ones residing down below in the belly of the beast, as he had done on many times before. The black robe on this morning was true to form and was in the midst of his daily drawing session when Burris spotted a black-haired lawyer entering the room. He wore a colored linen suit with white shoes. He had a full head of hair, and his face sported a thick black mustache. The white-haired lawyer strolled around the courtroom with ease. He was in command of his steps. He was sure of his every action. Everyone responded to him on a different plane than the other lawyers in the room. He was the man in the stars. He had descended from the constellation. He was Robin Yeti. He was the lawyer Burris came to see. It did not take Burris long to see that Yeti was smart, that he was personable and strong enough not to back down in court. Even the judge stopped his incessant drone long enough to acknowledge Yeti's presence and immediately ordered the release of his client from the county jail. The people sitting next to Burris were excited that their family member and friend would be released from jail that day. Burris asked one of them if he had a card for the smart young lawyer and was given a business card by one of them. Burris rushed over to Yeti's law office. He wanted to see this man set up. He walked around outside and noticed the people coming in and out. When Yeti arrived at his office door, Burris approached him and requested an appointment on the spot. Yeti obliged him and the two men hit it off. They shared a common interest in the aloofness of life. Yeti had second thoughts about taking Burris on as a client, but decided there could be no trouble in holding on to an audio tape. Besides, by the time a man as healthy as Burris kicked the proverbial bucket, the technology to play the tape would long since have disappeared from use. Thus, prior to Burris' capture in Knoxville, Georgia, he had given lawyer Yeti the audio tape diary of his life with instructions not to release the contents of the diary until after his death. Little did Robin Yeti know that taking on the red-haired stranger as a client would lead to his first visit to Macon, Georgia. This day had started out as an ordinary day. He kissed his wife goodbye and headed to the office to grab a file that he needed for his court appearance that morning. Normalcy was about to turn into what seemed like the paranormal. This had to be a surreal dream. 1 minute in time, he is arguing for the release of his client, and the next minute he has been escorted into a car by federal marshals and has been driven to Macon, Georgia. How fanciful is that? One moment, a free, fire-breathing lawyer out to protect the rights of the innocent. The next second, he was unable to go to the bathroom without permission. I hope you enjoyed it. Now go read.